Imagine it's 1994 and you have $271,000 in your bank account. You could go to a Chevy dealership, buy the brand new Impala SS, and then drive it across the street to the Ferrari dealership where you buy a brand new 512 Testarossa. And then you go to a Phoenix suburb, buy a house with a 2-car garage, and then you would still have about $9,000 left over to spend on a Geo Metro or about 40,000 shares of Apple stock. You could do all of that, or you could buy one of these. This is the 1993 Bentley Continental R, and it was the most expensive production car in the world. However, thanks to depreciation and a maintenance schedule that looks a whole lot more like a Ricoh case than actual running costs, I paid less than a used Civic for this. Alright, so welcome back to my floor. We have a couple of things that I want to do down here before anything else. One is a fuel filter that's that way, and one is a leaking master, something to do with the brakes that's that way. So that's the plan at the moment. I don't have much of a plan at the moment. I went to remove a wheel, and it just has this little cap on it, but then it also has a key underneath that, which is great if you have the key, so we need to find that. Step one is to go where the toolkit is, which is behind this, I'm going to say not factory, probably many $1,000 Alpine sound system back in the day. I would call that pretty lucky. That is an entirely different kind of wheel lock. So using the reflection of the camera, I can tell that that is a fuel filter that sits right there. And you have a 17 and a 19, should pull right off, right? Yeah, no. This is always easy. Nothing's ever corroded underneath cars. Always breaks free. Oh. Well, that doesn't make for very good content. It's just loose, so I'm gonna go through and do these upper hoses at some point, and when I do that, I'll replace all of these, but for right now, I think I'm just gonna tighten it up for the moment. Is like an entire pan worth of oil. Man might have been angry. Sometimes you get really, really, really lucky. Some days I have moments where I find the O2 sensor hanging in the suspension, and I just get real confused on what is going on ever. So anyways, that's fun. using a chrome socket. Give me a break. The ride height on these cars is adjusted in the front by little spacers that sit on something that looks like a McPherson strut, but is in no way a McPherson strut. Anyways, it kind of looks similar, and I need a way to hold the spring down, and it's a big spring because this is a 5,800-pound car, and it's a truck spring at the end of the day. There's no two ways about it. So I bought some 1-inch plate to make a spring carrier and some B7 all thread. And this started out as a mill project and then ended up being like mostly a lathe project, and then is somewhere halfway in the middle on this. The reason that this became a whole thing and like changed projects 3 times is that I could only get 8-inch pre-cuts in steel, and I need a 7.5-ish circle. So I ended up buying some 8-inch pre-cuts, and then I'm going to turn down my outside diameter, or turn down my inside diameter, turn down the outside diameter, and then do the slot and the 4 holes that I need on the mill. And that way I can only do 1 pass on the mill, or I only have 1 fixture on the mill, and it should be a little bit easier. That's the idea, at least. There looks to be a small taper on the bottom of this shock, so I just set my compound at about 15 degrees, and I'm going to cut a little bit of a taper. Theoretically, this. Okay, I think that's 3. I also tossed on these keeper nuts to make sure they don't go anywhere. So those collars sit right up in here, and try as I might, I can't feel that there's any ones in there. I lied. These are actually the collets, and this slides down a little bit. That makes more sense, because I finally was able to break this loose. So I gotta get this out of there. So looking at these, there's about 3/4 of an inch of spacers. It's actually 0.7, but I can go up to 1 inch according to Rolls-Royce, so I'm going to go for the full inch. I was really looking for about a 1/2 inch of growth, but you know, I'll take it without having to replace springs. Hi, I'm Wesley Kagan. Every year, thousands of pieces of old industrial equipment are sent to the scrapyard unnecessarily. With your help and your generous contributions by buying merch and subscribing to Patreon, you too can help us save old pieces of industrial equipment that otherwise would end up on Facebook Marketplace. They deserve homes too. One of the most interesting things about working on this car is I have the dash panel off, which, by the way, is a real solid piece of plywood, but still real wood. There's no screws, there's no plastic clips to break. It's all like threaded inserts and everything that's welded onto a metal piece. That's really, really nice to work on. And yeah, it's ridiculously heavy. You know, everything looking like an airplane in here, but if we actually zoom in on where that knob and, you know, this threads in and out or pushes in and out to actuate the actual vent and stuff, but the bolt holding on the trim piece, and I'm going to try and focus here, is this little metal collar, and it sits on there, but it has a tooth on it. It slides over, slides into a slot, and turns, and that's what, I mean, the wood dash sits in between there, but that's what holds on your wood dash. There's no bolts, there's no nothing like that. It's literally this machined pin that makes all of this happen. Wild. Anyways, we're pulling this out. All right, Bentley. What is this? What is this? This sits in the center of the dash there. And right now it just turns all on. All the lights light up. And I don't think absolutely everything is wrong, but I think most things are wrong. But I'd really like to know which ones are wrong. That sure looks like a blown capacitor to me. All of that leaking out there. Could be not, but I'm going to test that. Probably replace that capacitor and that capacitor while we're at it. Nice.
I was worried that this was the problem for me. I've been ignoring my software updates for like 6 months.
Yeah, this leak I'm pretty comfortable in saying is exactly where I thought it was. So that's fun. That's not too bad. So the alleged fix for this is Loctite 638. Basically, we just need to get to a point where this tube is pulling out on the collar there, and that'll do a little bit better. See what happens. I'm going to do the other side too. This one's leaking bad enough that I actually have to do something about it, and instead of doing it the right way and just replacing the strut, I'm going to order in a set of known bad ones and send them off to a local hydraulic shop to get rebuilt. But I don't want to wait for that, so I'm going to machine out a quick fix between now and then. So I machined out a little thing that looks like the end of the cylinder where it meets the top there, just something quick and dirty. And then it needs to look like that, sorta. This is just a temporary fix to see if this actually even works, because what's not actually leaking is the ram itself. What's leaking is the bottom seal that takes all of the abuse. So I'm just going to try and put some O-rings in there. That's the idea. Yeah, and right like that. It's got an O-ring on the inside and then 2 O-rings there, and I'm going to put a little bit of retaining compound around the inside lip there. In the interest in trying to not replace 2 leaking hydraulic cylinders that will continue to leak, my understanding is about every 2 years you got to go and replace them at about $1,000 a pop. We're going to find a different solution. I was really hoping the solution was going to be $50 truck shocks, but they are not. Glad these aren't completely buried in here or anything. The idea being that this bolt slides right in there and then has a place to sit. These are QA1 coilovers, the longer version of the ones that are on the race car. We also have some heavier springs. I was going to be somewhat concerned about just putting an adapter instead of using the pivot joint here and building it out of aluminum, but they built theirs out of aluminum, so I'm going to do the exact same thing. Alright, I can work with that. That would do it. Hi, welcome back to Unstance My Bentley, which we're going to try and solve that. I'd make a couple arguments about this piece, one of which is this is looking pretty rough. The other of which is that I know for a fact that this bushing is really cooked. So look, at some point there's probably a decent chance that I'll just order another ball joint, but for the sake of the argument, this one is, if it wasn't so blasted hot from me cooking it, completely rebuildable. So they have these nice little seats that sit down in here, and basically there's little tabs on there and you can adjust as needed. The actual seat and stuff doesn't look that bad at all. It's just me trying to get it apart, which was the problem. Alright, so here's the deal. The bushings for this car are super expensive, and I don't want to buy them. The main upper control arm bushing is like $300, and I don't want to. So, what I did is I went and bought some PMC 780D. It comes in both blue flavor and yellow flavor. You're supposed to mix them together, and this is, hopefully, slightly harder of a... what is this stuff? Urethane. Polyurethane. Actually, the originals were just like a rubber compound. So this should be better, a little bit stiffer, take a little bit longer to degrade, ideally. The upper bushings have an inner sleeve that is an inner sleeve, and then the outer race that's still in the upper control arm. I don't really feel like pressing that out of there, so I'm just going to cast it in place. The other four that I'm making are still on the printer. I'm going to do those later, and those are just a standard press-in style with a little metal bushing that sits in them. I found it really easy to take apart these bushings by heating them up slightly, and then they just peel apart. My concept that I have going here is that each of these individual sleeves go in a little 3D printed stopper, and then this little 3D printed stopper slides in there, is the same diameter as that. If this goes wrong, it's fine. Comedy lives in a wide shot. Should I wear a respirator with this? I'm pretty sure, yeah, I probably should. I'm 1000% sure that I don't think these actually are anything but dust particulate. It's the thought that counts. You get credit for trying. So. So, after about 6 hours, this weird little squishy bad bushing is now something fairly nice and a lot tougher. I mean, there's no doubt about it. This was an expensive car back in the day. There's no question. But there is a specific tactile feeling that comes with the cost that translates in this car better than any other car I've ever driven. This car, in a lot of ways, is the antithesis to the Passat window switches in the Bugatti. Paying more for something than its cheapest possible market value should get you something in return. They can be material quality because it's made by craftsmen who are making a living wage, or it can be artistic intent or countercultural. A Ferrari is impractical and oh so pretty, and its artistic intent keeps you distracted from the fact that the stitching doesn't line up on the dash and so forth. Look, this is a Bentley. Like, this is the establishment. There's no question about that. This is Laura Piana. This is Hermes. This car is the difference between a guy driving down the LA freeway at 45 miles an hour in 1993 and a friend driving down the LA freeway at 45 miles an hour. It's just an entirely different tax bracket back then. To be clear, my argument is not back when America still built things. First of all, this is British. Second of all, I grew up in a 1990 Dodge Ram pickup, and nothing about that interior comes even remotely close to what it's like in here. Things sucked back then too, but survivorship bias creates this implausible notion. My argument is that tactility is equally as important to define luxury as technology or screens or whatever. A solid wood dash and a switch that feels strong makes dumb little connections in your brain that if the switch is strong, the rest of the car is too, and when it's hurtling down the road at 90 miles an hour, it's not going to come apart in your hands. That feeling, that click, is what makes this car more comfortable than any modern Volkswagen Auto Group product there is. They can tell me the car is safe, that it's stable, that it's strong because of technology, but humans aren't that smart. I'm not that smart. This is just good, and it feels like it. You know, it's weird. This car is so steady on the road. It's so planted, but it really cannot figure out whether it's a Rolls-Royce or not, you know. It goes over bumps and like you feel them, but it just kind of lets you know that they're there. It's really strange. It drives great. And you put your foot to the floor and it goes, although it's a lot like pushing a cat off an ottoman. Like it's physically possible, but it really doesn't feel like it does anything. It's like East of Eden by Steinbeck. It's long-winded and esoteric, but you don't mind. You enjoy how it gets you there. Also, Fred Durst used one of these in the Limp Bizkit Rollin' music video. Both are equally important works in American literature. And that'll probably do it for this video. My initial idea was to keep everything as stock as possible, and that went out the window real quick, so there'll probably be some changes coming up. I want to redo the dashwood, I want to fix the center screen, and a few things like that. There's probably an engine swap in the works, to be completely honest. Other than that, if you liked the video, please like, subscribe, comment down below, and thank you guys very much for watching.